Hi everyone, and welcome to our webinar on how we get Web3 ready with Chainstack and Virtuozzo. How we can enable you to sell blockchain as a service using your Virtuozzo cloud. Can you go to the next slide, Amin, please? So before starting, let me emphasize a bit of what we will be presenting today and who I have with me in order to make this webinar a success. Amin Lahrishi, he's the head of business development at Chainstack for EMEA, myself, vice president of global business development, and Joe Morgan, our vice president of cloud. Today, we will be making some introduction about how we will be running this ecosystem webinars. We will be speaking mostly about Chainstack and how Chainstack can help any service provider or any IT player to propose blockchain and Web3 services to their end users and customers, and where is the opportunity and where is the opportunity for any service provider in the market. And we will be ending the session with the Q&A, answering all the questions you may have. Can you go to the next one? Yeah, so before starting and getting into Chainstack, let me give you a bit of news from our side. So we understand, being in service provider business, being in infrastructure business, that workloads are kings when it comes to consumption of infrastructure. So what we decided this year is that we would be building alliances with true, well-known workload providers, and we will be helping you and getting that ecosystem in front of you to show you how you can use that solutions to increase the consumption and to go to market with a different set of solutions rather than only infrastructure. So we are building an ecosystem set of webinars with ecosystem players that we are working with every day. We are certifying them on Virtuozzo technologies and making sure that it can run on top of Virtuozzo technologies, and then bringing them in front of you to showcase how you can leverage these solutions to go to market to your customers. So we won't be only showcasing only products or infrastructure products, but Virtuozzo is taking you to the second step, which is providing solutions to the market. And these solutions can be in all different markets, can be for blockchain, can be for marketplace, for DevOps. So each time we will be having an alliance, an ecosystem partner who we believe that can help you to provide a solution to the market. We will be providing him the opportunity to speak to you all, and we will be running that type of webinars throughout all the year. Now, without taking much of your time, I would be handing it to Joe and Amin, who will be taking us where is the opportunity of blockchain and what we can achieve together by combining blockchain and Virtuozzo and your cloud opportunity.
Okay, Ahmed, thank you. And before I let Amin get into all of the details and really show you all what you came here to see, I thought it might be a good idea to just kind of set the stage and ask some kind of high-level questions just to make sure that everybody fully understands what we're talking about. I know when I heard of blockchain, originally it was around cryptocurrency, but that technology is obviously used for a lot more than that. And so I thought it might be good, Amin, for you to just give us a high level. What is blockchain and how is this maybe being used?
Yeah, well, thank you so much for the introduction. So blockchain is actually a shared immutable ledger that really facilitates the process of recording transaction like a database and then tracking asset for business purposes. And an asset can be like tangible, like a house, a car, a cash, or even intangible, like intellectual property, patent, copyrights. So the idea really is to have these immutable data points that no one will be able to change in the future, so you can have like more trust. Yeah, then the question of how is it used is really today three types of use cases that I'm seeing a lot on the market right now, as obviously cryptocurrency, like Bitcoin is just like one use cases as a cryptocurrency on top of blockchain for just digital assets in general. Then you also have like logistics. You have a lot of company like VMH, big brands, retail brands that are trying to see how they can build better trust in their supply chain using blockchain. And the last piece that I'm seeing also a lot in the space is just banks trying also to digitalize a bit more all of their assets again.
Okay, so if I understand this correctly, I guess what makes blockchain so powerful is that it is this ledger of all of these transactions that once that transaction has been written, it can't be changed, meaning it's publicly visible. Everybody can, or maybe not publicly visible, but it's got a chain of custody, I guess you could say, for that transaction to be shown. And so that can has a bunch of different use cases, as you just kind of explained. Who all is kind of buying this, and are you seeing a lot of growth in demand for this?
Yeah, so obviously since 2013, cryptocurrency, then the blockchain world started to pick up, and right now it's accelerating even more with like institutions. There is a big run towards blockchain right now in terms of institutions like big banks, also big governments trying to build their own CBDC, so their own currency for their state digitally on chain. So that's one layer. And second layer of growing, of course, is just all these Web3, as we call them, companies that are building companies within this blockchain space that are growing more and more, because the number of users every bull run is growing a bit more again. So that's a trend that we see on the long term that is just growing, and institution recently picked up. You have a great example like Starbucks going to their loyalty program. You also have some examples around Adidas, Nike, all these big brands getting there since 2-3 years, and now it's picking up even more.
I see. Okay, so as companies are starting new development on new technologies, they're figuring out that they can use this blockchain and interconnect it into existing programs that they've got in their businesses. And then we have what is RPC here on the screen, and I know that when we talked in the past, you mentioned that being used, and it was something that I was unfamiliar with, so I thought it might be good for me to give you this opportunity to just give us a little bit more background about what is it to mean to be an RPC and why is that important?
Yeah, so RPC endpoint, as we call it, is really this idea of middleware between the blockchain layer and the dApp layer. Anyone who want to interact with the dApp, who's actually using the blockchain on the backend, needs an RPC to communicate. It's a way to do two things: either receive on-chain data directly from the blockchain, or to push data, meaning imagine you're pushing a transaction through, you're pushing it through an RPC that will be validated then by the blockchain. So it's kind of a gateway to communicate between the two layers.
Okay, so it's kind of the protocol that's used to interact with the blockchain, which of course would be important for using blockchain as a service like Chainstack is able to do. So that makes sense. I appreciate that. Okay, well, I think that kind of sets the stage and gives some high level understanding. So I won't take any more of your time. Let's get right into it. And Amin, thank you for answering my questions, and I'll pass this on to you.
Yeah, thank you so much. All right. So yeah, thanks everyone for joining. So the goal today really is to explain what we do at Chainstack and how you can leverage this technology starting from tomorrow to enter this blockchain world through Virtuozzo. So the first important piece really is to give you an overview of Chainstack and what we do, and then we'll get deeper into the product, how it works, and how you can leverage this technology. So a few words: Chainstack had been built in 2018, really as an enterprise-grade focused company, helping one of the biggest Web2 brands on the market to really make that jump towards blockchain, with private blockchain initially, and then we shifted towards more public chains like Ethereum, Bitcoin, all the names that you keep hearing right on the market. Since then, we've been growing to 70K developers in our platform with 10K active subscriptions. Also, currently right now as we talk, we have more than 12K active nodes running. These nodes are the RPC we were talking about, and we can actually spin up those nodes in more than 13 different regions and have 27 patents in the process. Of course, another important point here is the goal for Chainstack is to provide RPC nodes as a service. That's how we started. Today, we're more than that. I'll explain other products that you can leverage. But really, the idea is to answer this question on how can we help developers focus on their product and not focus on the infrastructure layer, which takes a lot of time to maintain, and that is super hard to get reliable, especially getting on-chain data live.
And while you're going to the next slide, I wanted to remind everyone at the end, we're going to do a Q&A. So be sure to ask questions in the chat during this as well, and we'll try to address those at the end. Sorry for interrupting you, Amin.
No, sure, you're good. Yeah, so second point is really to give you an overview of this RPC product. Today, we can cover more than 22 networks. So you've heard of Arbitrum, Bitcoin, Ethereum, all those networks. We can cover more than 22 today. In both two modes, like archive data, if you want to get the whole historical data, but also the full nodes, which are usually just the latest block available. The latest block being the latest data available on the blockchain. And the second piece is obviously we're going to have a global network with our RPC, so you can choose between different set of providers and 7 different locations. And this is what you can give access to your end user as well, a set of different cloud options and also locations. Then the really important part of our service is really to be enterprise ready. That's really what makes us stand out in the space is we can have the Web2 standards applied to the Web3 world. So it means that we can have this 99.9% availability SLAs on top of a 24/7 customer service, which is very key when you're running infrastructure at scale for financial services that involves trading, that involves big banks, big governments, and that's something that we already handle with top customers that I will mention later on. And the last piece, which is very important in this space, is cost transparency. All our model is fully transparent, and we'll get into that at the end. But this is very important because as this space is growing and we don't have visibility on how fast it grows, it's super important to have an idea of how would you manage your scale as you go, and that's something that you can do very easily with Chainstack. So as I mentioned, the first point, try to illustrate those 4 points here. The first one is we're multi-chain. Obviously, these are networks that you might heard of already. So like Ethereum, Bitcoin, Polygon, Avalanche, many of them. I'm not going to name all of them, but the idea here is just to show you that we're committed to get to the next important chain. And our team is actually working right now to add another 8 this year. And we keep shipping, as we say in the space, to give you access to the top chains. For example, ZK Sync is one that has been released very recently, like 3 weeks ago, and it's already available on Chainstack. Then the second point was the distribution of those nodes. I think it's super important in a world where this technology usually relies on decentralized kind of mindset and ethos. It's important to decentralize the nodes to have them geographically in different regions, right? So this is why through your data centers, you would be able to share or give access to different types of nodes in Texas, Virginia, as you can see on my screen, Europe, and also Asia. And this has an impact on the performance on the node. If the end customer requests blockchain data from London, you would better have a node very close to Europe to optimize the latency. These are small optimization, but at the very end, it can have a lot of impacts on your end user, especially on the use case of a bank, for example. This is obviously where you could leverage your on-premise data center, so you have access to those different regions. Then I mentioned that we're enterprise ready. I already explained that we have those SLAs, 99.9% SLAs. We have a 1-hour SLA for premium support, meaning that it's as if our team was an extension of our customers. And also one thing that is super important for us is how do we give you access to status of all those nodes, all those different regions, It's very hard to keep up. That's our job. That's why we're doing it, and we help make people's life easier. But at the same time, we want you to have access on the different uptime based on the node, and that's something also that you have access to through our product. In terms of infrastructure, obviously every customer would have their own needs, right? So this is why also we decided to be very flexible on the way we customize nodes. And this is maybe a great segue to explain that we have two types of node, either what we call the elastic node, the shared infrastructure, which is less customizable, and then the dedicated infrastructure, which is actually having your own node running by Chainstack on the backend. And this, obviously the elastic would be also run by us, but here you would be able to set up the CPU that you want, the RAM that you want, the storage that you want. You could deploy it really anywhere in our catalog, and also you can add some VPN on top, and you can go really with dedicated gateways and try really to optimize the node for your use case or for the end use case of the user, which is very key for some of our customers. Load balancing. I think load balancing as well is a very important point. The idea here is to say that, coming back to, if you remember the slide where you could have different nodes on that map, imagine you have a node in London, a node in Texas, and one in Tokyo. You want to make sure that those ones are load balanced, meaning that the request from the end user will be smartly redirected to the right endpoints based on the region to optimize latency, or just based on availability if one node is like more packed than another one in terms of request. And that's where the load balancing comes from. And that's something that we can also add on top as a service. So you really can offer reliability and resiliency to the nodes, which is very key as well for some use cases. Well, sometimes people don't really care about the latency that much for analytics. So it really depends again on the use case. Cost transparency, I already explained the fact that we're transparent, and the main point here is to show that many of the actors on the market are trying to really focus on like compute units. For us, we want to have a very simple model where we just charge by the number of requests that goes through the node. Even though it's like a big request or a small one in terms of compute, we don't really focus on that to make the end user's life easier. And that's why we really want to like eliminate hidden fees and surprises with averages with this model. Overall, if you kind of understand what we do, is as if Chainstack is your engineering team, DevOps team for nodes. It's pretty common in the Web2 space, SaaS model, but that's what we do as a service. And really the idea here is to sync nodes in minutes, because sometimes it could take 3-4 weeks to sync up an archive node with all the data from Ethereum from Genesis. Also, you have the option to expand into multi-chain quickly, meaning like you're just gonna, in 3 clicks, add the new chain that came up last week, instead of struggling again by having to go through the process of spinning up a node. Every blockchain has different requirements in terms of CPU storage. This is handled by us for your end user. And also we give you access to different types of node, like full, archive, dedicated, things that would suit your need on top of the customization. And then the monitoring piece is very important. This is 80% of the job. 20% you spin up the node, and then you have to monitor everything, which takes you forever because it just never ends. And that's something that we do for you again. So overall, we say that we can really save you some important costs for having engineers, and this would be the price for only one that you can see on my screen, but definitely this could go up 5-10 times more for big teams in the industry. So the idea behind this is, as a statement, that there is no need to reinvent the wheel, right? The same way as most of your customers don't need to reinvent the cloud, you don't need to reinvent RPC nodes. And this is exactly what we do as a service. So now that you understand what we do for RPC, and obviously if you have questions, you can ask them during the Q&A. But we started with, as you can see on my screen, the nodes. But we're getting actually further. Like the vision at Chainstack is really to become your gateway to Web3. And I'm going to show you some small examples of what we can do on top, and some products we already launched like last week for subgraphs, app chains that we're already selling, and also hosting in a decentralized way. I'll explain. But yeah, the idea really is, how can we help the Web3 / blockchain world to thrive and to win even more time? Because nodes really think about it as the raw material, and then on top you can build up APIs on top to get specific data. That's what we want to optimize as well. So the first product that came in very recently was the Chainstack marketplace. We're able here to give access to our partners API and SDK directly within our marketplace. So the benefit from that is people can get actually directly they can get directly access to APIs in a unified billing, and sometimes specific offers that we've negotiated for our end user. So you have your node at Chainstack and you want to use another types of API from not a partner of ours, you can use it directly here and have one billing. That's the idea of the marketplace. Just show you we're building an ecosystem instead of just being an RPC endpoint. Obviously, we're leveraging our technology, and this is another example, app chains. So if you're familiar with blockchain is actually open, so you can actually go through the transaction yourself through different block explorer, but you have a different model that is very linked to what enterprises right now are exploring. It's called app chains. It's actually sub blockchain of a public blockchain. So let's take Avalanche as an example. They have what we call subnets. It means that you can actually have a private blockchain that is permissionless. You still have the same way to connect with it. It's open. You can have decentralized nodes that are actually controlling your chain, but it's still private. And this is very good use cases for banks who still want to have access to the open source world of blockchain, but they still want to have their private environment. And that's what you can do with Avalanche, with subnets, with Binance, with sidechain, and Polygon as well with supernets. This is something that we can do as a service, because what it takes for Chainstack to run those private blockchains is the validator nodes. That's something that we can help you spin up, and then we'll manage everything for the end user, so you don't have to maintain the nodes, and you can focus on building your app or blockchain ecosystem. So that's another example. Another example is the subgraph. It's not on my slide here, but we released it like last week, so I'm mentioning it. Subgraph is a way to query data that you index through GraphQL queries. And this is also very interesting to index a lot of data. And that's also a product that we released last week as a service to propose something on the market, because it was kind of a blank spot on the market. And then I think one of the most important parts for this webinar is the white label. Everything that I've mentioned can be sold white label. So the saying is like really your brand, our solution on the back end. And this is a way for you to kind of expand to new markets and get access to this new blockchain craze, in the sense that all the institutions right now are looking at, all the consulting firms, all the banks. So there are a lot of opportunities in each country, really, from Europe, from the US, or also Asia. We were seeing a lot of opportunities, and that's something that you can capture through white label products. Obviously, this is something that you can get access very easily. You can use our documentation to get API endpoints and build your own UI without the need to build a new system. So yeah, as a summary, really Chainstack is your gateway to Web3. You can manage up to different nodes, RPC nodes, access to subgraphs. That's what you can see on my screen here, and really streamline the Web3 operations with an all-in-one ecosystem for developers to monitor like the request, the finance and admin teams to track everything that is needed to your web users. So before I show you actually the demo and really how it works to spin up a node, just as an example, the goal really is to give you some ideas of who is using Chainstack. So it's very Web3 oriented, but you can apply this to a bank. So Allianz Block, for example, is a decentralized finance infrastructure for a digital asset company. And what they do really is they want to bridge the gap between traditional finance and blockchain technology. And they're using Chainstack for their connection to Polygon, Ethereum, and BSC to get access to archive data. And really, they've been able to remove all the plumbing DevOps work so they can really focus on building their product value instead of losing time on nodes. And they also have access to premium support to get really access to more than 20 chains in the next month with us. Another very famous one in the ecosystem that is a competitor of Uniswap, if you're familiar with this blockchain ecosystem, 1inch is a decentralized exchange. It's like Coinbase but decentralized, and the idea here is really you can buy any tokens with it, and they're using Chainstack dedicated nodes on the backend for Ethereum, BSC, Polygon, and Avalanche for more than 1 billion requests per month. So just to show you how you could push those networks and nodes with us. And Chainlink is another Oracle price company that is also using us for 3 billion requests, so like 3 times bigger than 1inch, as an example. So yeah, this is maybe where I can show you how the UI looks like. So basically, you can connect to our console. You can create a project here. You can name it Virtuozzo demo, for example. Then this name will pop up here instead of Ethereum here. And you'll have access to your project with all the nodes from your project. What you want to do, imagine you had a blank page, you just want to join the network. So you choose between across all the different nodes services that we do have. And what you can do is, let's take Aurora as an example. You can spin up always either mainnet or testnet. Mainnet is obviously the real network. Testnet is the test version just for testing purposes. We'll select mainnet for that. Then you can select Elastic dedicated, full archive, as mentioned, the hosting piece. And the hosting piece is, let's take Virtuozzo in Amsterdam, for example. You can name the node, let's call it Webinar node, and you get access to the whole setup. So it's an Aura node on mainnet, it's an Elastic node, full, meaning the latest block, hosted by Chainstack as the maintainer of the node, cloud provider Virtuozzo, and in Amsterdam. Based on that, we're just going to spin it up. Because we have what we call the snapshot technology, you don't need to lose time to speed it up. Usually it could take weeks. Here, it just takes a few minutes or seconds, depending on the size of the node. But I already have one spinned up for you to show you how it works. So you get your node ready. It's the exact same setup. And then you get access to what we call an HTTPS endpoint or a WebSocket endpoint. HTTPS is pretty basic, but WebSocket is a way for you to listen to events. So anytime you'll have a new block or a new specific event, you would be able to trigger an action, which would be your WebSocket endpoint. All right. So here are just like 2-3 slides to show you some customers that we do have in very specific areas. The important one for me here to stress out is we're working with more and more institutions like top banks, and also we can see DeFi is also what have been bringing a lot of interest for the TradFi, the traditional finance. So that's why I'm showing this slide. We have like 1inch, Token Tax, QuickSwap, like the big names in this space. Then also a lot of developmentals and infrastructure using us on the back end to build their infrastructure tool, like Venly, Chainlink, who are very well known in the space, and entertainment and gaming. A lot of games are using us as well. So really, you should see Chainstack as the backbone of any Web3 companies, and that's why we have such a broad market and opportunities, because you could work with institutions, and on the second day you could work with those gaming companies or also just purely infrastructure companies in this space. One of the last thing I want to mention is pricing model and security. Pricing model is pretty simple. You have 2 models based on the 2 types of node that I mentioned. The first one is the elastic infrastructure. the shared infrastructure is here based on the number of requests per month across all network. It doesn't really matter how much network you're having. What really matters to us is the number of requests to your pools of nodes. And the second model is more the dedicated infrastructure. It's unlimited transaction for a fixed price, obviously higher because it's not shared, but at the same time, it would fit better some use cases when you have only like 1 or 2 networks that you really want to invest heavily on. And for this model, as a reminder, you're able to customize a bit more the node, the region, and CPU. So in terms of security, just to wrap up here, I mentioned we are enterprise ready. This is obviously security is a crucial point here. So you have a password authentication plus MFA. You really have access to like backup and data recovery. And obviously Chainstack has 0 data touchpoint for on-prem production developments, which is very key for security purposes. And each node application, including processes and data, are isolated, which is key to most of our customers. Well, this is pretty much it. Thank you for listening, and if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them with our team.
Thank you, Amin. So as everyone saw within your presentation, so let me give a bit of or resuming what you were saying. So we have a complete platform for service providers and for enterprise players to offer Web3 and blockchain solutions up to 23 protocols in a simple manner, where you can deploy the nodes on top of a Virtuozzo cloud and propose it to the end users. So it's from the deployment till the consumption of the service managed by the solution of Chainstack, and then from an infrastructure perspective, it's powered by Virtuozzo and all the awesomeness of our density and our performance that helps to get this and optimize the cost for the blockchain solution, because today people tend to go to hyperscalers or enterprise solutions that makes these blockchain solutions or Web3 solutions very expensive because they are requiring a lot of resources. Today, we are giving it in a way where it's simple to manage, so reducing the cost of management, and as well cost optimization from an infrastructure perspective to reduce the cost for the end users, which are enterprise or Web3 developers, that they can consume it without being hit by a big bill from Amazon or anyone else. And this is the opportunity for the service providers today. Service providers will propose a turnkey Web3 solution that is optimized, white labeled, fully managed, and with the cost optimization to their end users. Let me now take a bit of questions that we have from the audience. So we have a first question. Is this a fully managed blockchain solution, or we have to manage the things on our own?
Yeah, that's a good question. So the whole purpose of Chainstack, as I mentioned, is to offer you a service that is fully managed, so you don't have to take care of like how to spin up nodes, and also then the whole monitoring piece after it's spinned up. So it means that if Ethereum has an upgrade, like recently with the Shanghai update, you can directly get access to it, because obviously our team is working very closely with their team, so we're sure that we will spin up the right upgrade before it happens, so we're able to do it on time, so you don't have any downtime with us.
Okay, awesome. Another question that I have: we are a data center in the Pan-American region. What do we need to do to partner up with Chainstack to have RPC nodes hosted at our data center? I see in your map that you don't have a presence in the region.
Yeah, so these regions are the one that we usually cover directly in our website, right? But we are also able to spin up specific centers for specific use cases if needed. We recently worked with a government in the Middle East that required specific data center, and we build it for them. So if that's a data center that is already available through your company, that's something that you can leverage to propose it directly white label to your end user.
So that's actually pretty amazing, the opportunity that you guys have created here. And I like that slide that you used, the gateway, because really what you've done with that marketplace is you've created an opportunity on both sides. One, for the web developer who's wanting to use just blockchain quickly, maybe some new blockchains without having to have all this expertise. But then on the other side, like this question that was just asked, if you are an infrastructure provider and you want to offer blockchain as a service, you can use that same thing and use your infrastructure, kind of powered by the Virtuozzo OpenStack virtualization technology within Chainstack operating the blockchain almost as a service, fully managed blockchain on top of it. So, I mean, that gives a lot of opportunity on both sides, both on the development side and on the hosting side, which is great, to be able to use their own infrastructure. And it looks like we also had another question as well about whether they can do a hybrid where they actually use the infrastructure that they have on site and infrastructure managed by Chainstack as well.
So do you mean like having their own RPC nodes on their backend plus using ours?
It's about, I think, multiple regions and locations, about being able to have access to multiple locations.
Yeah. So basically what you can do obviously is having a different set of nodes, as I mentioned, and the purpose for that is then to load balance them to make sure you have a more strong and resilient system on the backend. So that's definitely something you can do with Chainstack, with like only nodes from Chainstack, but you can use it from Chainstack and other types of nodes. It's pretty endless, the options that you have. And it's pretty good practice in general to have a backup, as to say. So that's how we've seen like this trend on the market as well.
That's great.
I am not seeing any other questions. With this, I thank you all for your time in joining us. If you have any questions, you can get in touch with your Virtuozzo account manager, and he will be helping you with the solution and how we can. Wait, I have another solution. I have another question, sorry. What about monitoring? Are there built-in tools for monitoring logs or results of a project node, for example, on testnet?
Not sure I understand your question, Amit.
So the question is about monitoring. When you want to monitor anything that is happening on your blockchain and Web3 and Chainstack solution. So they said, the person said, what about monitoring? Are there built-in tools for monitoring logs or the result of a project, for example, on testnet?
No, so the goal really is to build up monitoring of the nodes or monitoring of any of the tools you're using with us. It gives you an idea of the consumption that you have per blockchain. We can actually build up any types of data because we have access to all the data for you. So usually what we do is we provide personalized dashboard analytics for you. So if you want to track more on a project basis, you can. If you want to track more on the network like Ethereum, BSC basis, you can. And testnet would be just part of them as just an RPC node and network.
I have another question, and here it is for you, Joe. What is needed to deploy on VHI?
So if you want to have your own infrastructure at your location, VHI is the Virtuozzo hybrid infrastructure, and what that is actually a full OpenStack solution that we offer fully managed installation of that and support for that, so that you can take your infrastructure at your location and be able to provide services like infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, Kubernetes as a service, and that is what is used to power the Chainstack solution on top of your infrastructure at your location. So you would just reach out to us. We could get you set up with a demo, or give you an evaluation copy and show you how you can start monetizing your equipment, and to either sell this stuff as a service or use it for your own internal use case to just optimize your workloads that you've got at your location. And then this solution sits directly on top of that.
And so what is needed on top of Virtuozzo hybrid infrastructure, a Kubernetes cluster, and then you put all the workloads on top of it, or you just need to allocate any VM or node when deploying on a Virtuozzo hybrid infrastructure, a Chainstack node?
Yeah, I mean, it can be done either way based on your requirement, right? So you take our infrastructure, and you can use Chainstack to offer that fully managed solution on top of it, or if you have other infrastructure needs for VMs or Kubernetes, then you can run that on that same infrastructure as well.
Okay, good. I'm looking to do this in the African market. Would that be possible?
So
do you have operations for Africa?
So when you say operations, what do you mean, like human-wise or technology-wise? Because technology-wise, it seems that depending on the data that you can handle, we can do it anywhere. In terms of operations, we cover the world in terms of support, so it's also something that we can do if the question is more ops oriented.
And same for us. So we have a team supporting. We are supporting worldwide. We have even a sales team focusing on Africa. So we can definitely deploy such solution for the African market. Okay, so with this, we ended the questions that I have here. I thank you for your time. Thank you for spending this time and showing the showcase of the solution. We will be having the next webinar with another ISV rollers for all the high compute needs and how the solution can help into doing this. For this, stay tuned. You will be receiving the invitation and all the details to join that webinar soon there. Thank you, Joe, for your time. Thank you, Amin, for your amazing explanations. If you have any other question, please get in touch with your Virtuozzo account manager, or if you don't have a Virtuozzo, or you don't know who is your Virtuozzo account manager, just send us an email at info@virtuozzo.com, and we will be getting back to you. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Everyone.